Hello guys, it's me, Greed here, certified crybaby, and the guy who says Genji's terrible, when he's not. Anyway, I actually wanted to address that. I wanted to talk a little bit about Genji, again, because he's my hero, my beloved, I love you Genji, and why I say he's so bad, and why he's technically not. So, first thing out of the gate, is Genji actually a trash tier hero? No. In a vacuum, in a world where absolutely everyone is playing perfectly, Genji is a fantastic hero. A probably contender for easily top 5 hero in the game, probably higher. So I first want to start with why Genji never moved to 225, right? A lot of people are complaining that Genji's not a 225 hero, and he should be 225, but he remains 250, and I understand why people are mad about it, because technically, if he was a mobile hero, like the devs said that they would be making 225, then he would qualify, therefore should be 225. But I wanted to say why he's not 225. One of the main reasons Genji never dropped to 225 HP instead at 250 is because of his conditional movement. People call Genji a hypermobile hero, which is technically true, but most of his mobility comes with a requirement. His dash is both an engage and an escape tool, but if you use it to engage, you get an extra 50 burst damage, which is often necessary. The problem, you lose your escape. If you don't use dash to engage, you're missing that 50 damage, which can mean the difference between securing a kill or not. On top of that, without dash, it's much harder to close the gap on a target. This makes Genji's most useful movement tool a conditional resource, unlike Tracer's blinks, Winston's jumps, D.Va's boosters, Pharah's boosters, or Sombra's translocator. So while Genji is technically hypermobile, his mobility is only efficient when diving into dangerous situations where there's potential for a kill. This is why Genji stayed at 250 HP, because he's more affected by lower health than most dive heroes. His conditional movement often leaves him without an escape, meaning he's forced to commit to fights if he chooses to duel, unlike other dive heroes who can more easily escape. Now this doesn't make Genji bad, but it's part of the reason he's so difficult to play. What actually makes Genji feel bad is that he's disproportionately affected by healing, denial, and crowd control. Since his movement is conditional, he often can't escape once he commits. This forces him to fight through burst healing, lamp, Suzu, grip, and stuns, all of which are incredibly easy for supports to pull off, but can completely shut down Genji's engagement. Considering how mechanically demanding Genji is compared to how simple these shutdowns are, engaging as him can often be extremely punishing. To make things worse, a lot of heroes in the game can get consistent value just by poking from a safe distance. If Genji doesn't engage because he's afraid of being denied and left without dash, he's stuck poking, which doesn't generate nearly as much value as other heroes. And because he risks falling behind in value, he often feels forced to make riskier plays by dashing in at less than ideal times just to keep up. This can mean diving heroes like Sojourn, McCree, Ashe, Tor, Bap, Ana, and Kiriko, all of whom can shut him down if they prevent his combo. As a result, Genji is required to take more risks, play a far more mechanically demanding kit, and fight through more sustained, denial, and crowd control than most other heroes. On top of that, he requires more game sense since he's played at a faster pace, and has to manage his matchup perfectly because one wrong move can get him punished very hard. In theory, Genji is strong due to his burst damage, mobility, and survivability, but in practice, he rarely delivers the same amount of value compared to the effort he puts in. He takes more skill and risk than most other heroes, but he gets shut down way too easily. Honestly, it feels pointless to put in so much effort for barely more value, or sometimes even less than what significantly easier heroes can do. So, in a vacuum, Genji is strong, but with everything stacked so hard against him in practice, Genji can sometimes feel like he sucks. And that's why I say that Genji sucks. Technically speaking, he doesn't, because his potential is so high, he can do so much, but typically speaking, it requires infinitely more effort than it's usually worth to get the similar amount of value as other heroes can do so easily. Take Sojourn for example. She rarely needs to close the distance on her targets, meaning she doesn't have to enter dangerous or contested space, but can still burst down enemies like Genji can. On the other hand, Genji has to close the gap not just on one target, but technically the entire enemy team. Then there's Kiriko, who's arguably the best duelist in the game. Her damage is more concentrated than Genji because she only fires one projectile instead of 3. While Genji can technically output more damage, Kiriko doesn't need to take as many risks to do so. Plus, she has Suzu and TP, which are far stronger cooldowns than Deflect and Dash. This makes her duels much safer, gives her more poke/spam potential, and she can heal her team on top of it. Compare all the safety Kiriko has to the danger Genji constantly faces, and it's night and day. Now, I'm not saying Kiriko is just a better Genji, because they don't play the same way or even want to engage the same way, but when Kiriko does take a duel, she's far more likely to win compared to Genji, assuming equal skill levels. And then there's Tracer. Tracer is harder to play than Genji in terms of game sense and mechanics, but her movement is unconditional, giving her way more options in most situations. She can contest angles, take fights, and reposition aggressively or defensively without the same restrictions as Genji has. Because of this, Tracer has more potential output and typically takes on less risk, though it does come at the cost of higher effort. And now on to the bigger picture. To sum it up, Genji is technically strong, but he's also way more fucked over than most of the other heroes in the game, and he's much harder to play. This leads to him requiring a ton of skill for sometimes very little reward, but the real problem here isn't something that's so easy to fix or even realistic to fix. The main issue is that Genji's potential is technically limitless, while other heroes are not. Because Genji has so much skill expression and such high potential output, he will always retain at least some level of strength, a privilege that most other heroes don't have. And because that privilege isn't extended to other heroes, their output is capped, making it unfair for heroes like Genji or Tracer to potentially output infinite value when the rest of the cast simply can't. Instead of making the game overly punishing for harder heroes like Genji and Tracer, they should be revisiting older designs to give other heroes a similar, potentially limitless output. I know this will probably never happen, which means Tracer and Genji will continue to feel terrible to play in most cases, but in a perfect world, every hero would have the same potential that Genji does. Anyway, I realize that I'm not super good at articulating my words sometimes. Sometimes I come off more emotional than logical, and that's kind of on purpose sometimes. My channel is a little bit less of a coachy channel where I'm like, oh, this is like the correct way to do it, this is exactly how the hero strengths are. It's more of a channel where I personally have problems with the game, like as a player, I'm a human just like everyone else, obviously. I sometimes have problem with the game, and sometimes I want to bitch about it and cry about it and be like a man-child about it. I understand, like I'm not coming at a lot of my arguments from the perspective of it's 100% objectively correct all the time. I understand I give that impression off sometimes, which is bad, and I'm working on it. But this is mostly a channel for me just being like a whiny crybaby, because sometimes things annoy me. It's more of a personality thing than it is a super Omega Chad gameplay coach Omega guy thing. And sometimes I give off that impression, and sometimes I'll make videos with that impression in mind, on purpose, because that's the thing I'm going for. But yeah, I get it. Sometimes when I make a video where I'm like, Genji's trash, and he's the worst hero in the game, and he sucks, and he's bottom 3 hero in the game, it can come off like my words mean exactly that. And I get this sounds retarded, because it is, and trust me, I know how stupid this sounds. Sometimes I'm very hyperbolic, because that's just how I am as a person. Sometimes I can be hyperbolic. And I am very guilty of sometimes portraying information not super correctly, because I'm either biased or emotional about whatever situation it is that I'm talking about. So that's that. Anyway, I thought people would appreciate a little bit more of an objective, a bit more of a scripted, a bit more of like a analysis kind of video, instead of me just being like, wham, 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 my hero sucks. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, that's why I think Genji's not super great. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily make sense, because he technically is super great, based on the video I said, but he feels like shit, and that's a big reason that I think he is shit in some cases, because usually speaking, you don't really need a ton of skill to output the same amount of value as a Genji gets. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can put in basically zero effort on some characters and get the same amount of value as a Genji can in some situations. Not always, obviously. But that's why, for me personally, Genji feels like shit to play, and why I say he's shit. But I think every hero should be like Genji. And I think that'd be a beautiful world. I would love a world where a Moira wasn't this, like, brain-dead idiot character where you, like, walk around with your fucking giant aimbot beam or whatever, and your fucking like super omega piss cloud of healing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like these are lame things, and the reason that Moira doesn't have the potential output that Genji has is because her design is just simply dog shit. It's just not very good. It caps her output to being this kind of like lazy newbie character that can't really get a lot of value, so you kind of need to play the hero a bit cheesy and flank with her to get any actual value out of her, because she's just not very good. Which I think sucks, because if you love a hero so much, like some people absolutely love playing Moira. I don't get it, but some people love playing Moira, and it sucks for those players playing Moira to be in a situation where you simply just cannot output the same amount of value as other characters can, because the design of your hero caps it because of how easy your hero is to play. If they made Moira significantly harder to play, or gave her kit more nuance, or gave her kit more adaptability in the sense that there's more ways to use it, similar to like Ananade, right? There's so many ways to use it that it makes it quite a complex ability. Same thing for like Dash and Tracer Blinks. There's so many ways to use these abilities that there's a lot of skill in them, because you can't just simply wing the ability around and get value from it. You actually need to calculate. And I think that is a big reason that a lot of heroes in this game are so bad, is because they're held back by their character being very rigid. I think heroes need a bit more flow to them, and I think the best way to do that is to go back and fix it. Make more shit like Lucio. Make more shit like Genji and Tracer, where you have options, but your options have trade-offs, and you need to make the best option. Or maybe sometimes you're not going to take the best option because you're more comfortable with a different kind of play. There's a bit of a risk assessment there. It's a bit more fun. And I think that's a better game than what we have right now, because I think Kiriko and BAP and all that don't require all that much skill for the amount of value they get. They are difficult to play heroes, but the amount of value they get for the effort or skill they require is disproportional, and I think that's bad. Anyway, I hope you all have a good day. I heard people in Ralph's stream don't like when I kiss at the end. Mwah. That's for all of you guys. I love you all. I hope you all have a great day. Eat some nice pasta, okay? Goodbye. Have a good day. Have a good day.